650?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Crushing Iron podcast coming in hot.
Coming in hot. It's January 12th, the year. It's still 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, milestone episode 650.
That's a big one, man.
It's a solid milestone. Or it's a milestone 4. They're all milestones, but it's a milestone. You know, we can treat it just like Hayden treats every day of the year in accordance to how close it is to his birthday. We are just under halfway to his birthday for next year, for this year. But yeah, that's it. It's a gross and disgustingly dreary day here in Overland Park, Kansas. You're getting we got a little bit of spat of snow this morning. It really is kind of the annoying version. Nothing accumulated, just windy and sleeting and rainy. But it was still got out, got my run in, took waffles with me. How's the weather up yonder where you are?
I am sad to admit that I haven't looked outside yet. I don't know. It just seems like it's all running together. It might be sunny, it might be gloomy, but it has been gloomy most of the time. So I'm just kind of like, I get up, say hi to Maddie, and walk downstairs and get on calls, man.
Busy man. Busy man.
My guess is it's probably 30-ish and cloudy.
Yeah, I think you think you probably nailed it. That's pretty much just like, people in San Diego. They're like, it's probably 62 and sunny. Yeah, you're right. It probably is.
It's like, I used to get so mad back when I worked at the news station because, like our weather forecast team would be in this like dungeon and looking at computers all day. I'm like, you guys ever look outside? I mean, like, do you ever look and see what is out there? And they're like, no, we just go by the models. So I just looked up the model. It's 36 and cloudy here. So I was right pretty much there, You go by, the old country they used to go by if your shoulder was sore. It's a gloomy day.
It's something like that, yeah. Yeah, if your hands are cramping or your shoulder or neck sore, then it's 32 and overcast. That's the part of the year, which again is why I find it so fascinating that we try to start the year over in the worst possible time of year.
Yeah, let's get it going.
I've said this a lot. Put Christmas in June or July and see if it's that big of a deal, right? If you want to talk about starting year over and New Year's resolutions, what we should do? People who are already unmotivated, right, who don't want to do anything, but they want to turn their life around. Let's give them the least amount of sunshine possible. Okay, let's give them colder temperatures, and then that's going to make them super motivated to get outside. No, why can't we have it in the spring, right, or the transition from summer to fall? That's why there is no right time to do anything. Right? It can be any day. It could be a Tuesday. It could be a Wednesday. It could be, July 1st. It could be February 3rd. It could be September 5th. It doesn't matter. There is no perfect time, right? So stop putting things off. We put this podcast off enough anyway with our pre-call, a pre-podcast meeting today. But it's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. It's very about us. We appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level athletes looking to their very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite-level amateurs trying to get back to the world championships, and everyone in between and from all over the country and world. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also frequently utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, amazing community, fantastic resource. A lot of cool people in there with a lot of experience, willing to lend a helping hand and answer any and all of your questions in a beneficial and constructive way. And so don't be a lurker. Participate. We'll go in there once a month and do a little bit of a Q&A, take the pulse of the community and answer questions as best we can throughout the course of the podcast. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, we do. And I like what you said there earlier. There is no right time. I think the right time is now, usually, to do something. And I don't know. I'm just going to talk about it. The other night I had my mom. I got to talk about it.
Go for it, man.
Because I think it fits. I mean, like, I love my mom, and she's so hard charging that she just keeps busy, and she's always doing something. And yesterday or 2 days ago, she was out getting some logs for the fire off the side of the house, and she came back in, and she had already, obviously had her Christmas decorations up, and there was an extension cord there, and she tripped over it, and she fell onto the driveway, and she cut her elbow. And I was at work. She called. She's like, hey, I might need stitches or whatever. So I came home, and I ran her up to the hospital, and she's okay, just so you know. But we went and I looked at it, and I was like, Jesus, it was like a pretty big cut right across the bone of her elbow. And, my first thought was like, Mom, you got to be careful, whatever. But her whole thing in life is just kind of charging forward and doing stuff all the time. And she wears me out, like we could be doing yard work, and I kind of sneak away and try and get a nap or whatever. And she just keeps going, and that keeps her young, and she's just, I'm real proud of her in that regard. But I was up at the hospital, and it's not one of my favorite places to hang. I'm in the waiting room, and
don't say.
Yeah, you know that. It's like, so I'm sitting there. It was about a couple hours, I think, and eventually I was like, I can't just sit here anymore. And I went outside and I started doing push-ups out in the front of the emergency room. It was like, I don't think it was dark, and I was off to the side in the grass. But anyway, I went at it kind of hard, and did some sets to, failure. And then, I got in and went home and everything was fine. But yesterday I woke up, I'm like a little bit off, and, that happens sometimes in the morning or whatever. And then throughout the day, I just kind of had this weird, like almost a quasi equilibrium issue. And I was like, man, my neck was stiff and all that. And then I finally kind of pushed it back to like, maybe it was those push-ups. So I did a bunch of back rolling and loosened up my shoulder blades. And all that. And I could feel sort of like, as I was rolling, I could feel, how you can feel that nerve sensation that goes from one part to the other. And I was like, maybe I'm onto something, because it was in my neck. And I kept just grinding on that shoulder area, or below the shoulder in the back. And I got up, and it was kind of gone. And I was like, man, it's so weird. I always forget, I should say, that certain things that happen, like if it's a headache or something, it's usually probably somewhere else in the body, or some kind of neck connected to the, tailbone or whatever, so I just found that interesting. But my mom is doing great, and she went back to work yesterday, got the stitches in, and she's rolling. But I think the point of that.
Are any of us surprised that she bounced back like she did?
No.
No. Like when you text me that, because we had a Zoom call to attend, and you're like, hey, I'm going to be my mom, my mom's in the ER. And I immediately thought, regardless of what it is, you'll be gone in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You'll be gone because because of your total disdain for the hospital, but also because your mom is like, that generation is just tough as nails. And I was like, that's really not going to slow her down. It's not like, hey, how's she doing? It's, what is she doing today? Out there chopping wood. You look at like how soft we've gotten as a society these days, and it's like you get a hangnail and you're like, give me a minute, I got to go put on like, a real thick isotoner glove, and I probably can only shake hands with this one today. That's just how soft we go. But I had no doubt your mom was gonna bounce back.
Yeah, she went back. She's of course frustrated because she's doing most things left-handed right now, including putting together puzzles. But
your mom's amazing. Oh my gosh. But it's funny, like you share that story, and you had to go there because I knew you would. But and I started the podcast talking about there is no perfect time. And I think, as much as I wanted to maybe make this podcast about the perfect time, I think it's just perfection in general, and how absolutely paralyzing it could be. Right? Because when you think about perfection, we use the phrase a lot: progress, not perfection, because athletes are so obsessed with perfect, right? I had an athlete earlier this week who's really trying to, reinvent their way of thinking. And their way of thinking, it's a very, very high functioning, incredible, business acumen, very demanding, mom of 3, just like they are all about saying yes and all about doing as many things as possible. But when it comes to training, they have this paralyzation that is, if I can't do it all the way, I will do it none of the way. Right. And that is that, I'm a perfectionist, and when people say that, I don't immediately think you do things perfectly. What I think is, you must not do much at all, because you're either afraid, one, right, that it's not going to be perfect, or you're so paralyzed, right, that you get halfway through and you're like, this isn't gonna be perfect, gotta get done. I was that way. Like, I talked to Hayden about this all the time. Like, when he was starting to do his handwriting and learn how to write this year in first grade, sentences and stuff, I would tell him, he'd be like, I gotta start over. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not. I'm like, first of all, you're in first grade. Like, no one's expecting your 3s to look perfect. And I said, don't worry about it being perfect. Just do your best and do just the best you can, right? Because your best is always going to be good enough. And I shared a story with him back when I was growing up, and I was supposed to be upstairs doing homework, and I wasn't. I was designing, like, I was totally obsessed with the interior, like architecture, landscape architecture, interior architecture for houses. And I would just sit there at my desk upstairs and design houses and floor plans. That's all I would do.
George
and
Costanza.
I got accepted. Yeah, I mean, no one would probably ever think this of me, but like, I was supposed to be doing my homework, and I'd get up there and I would just spend hours. And my mom was like, "Oh man, he's being really, really studious," but I wasn't. I was ignoring my homework and doing what I love, which was, I actually got accepted to the pre-architecture program at Auburn my senior year of college, and then turned it down and stayed closer to home. But anyway, if I would spend hours designing a house, if I had to erase a small portion of it, and the eraser, how erasers get, like, if you use them a lot, then you go to erase for a minute to create like nothing, and there's this huge like black smear, right? Yeah. Because it's got too much pencil on the end, too much lead on the end. And if I had any smear, no matter how close I was to finishing, I would start over. I would rip it up and put it away. And I shared that story with Hayden. I shared that to you is because many of those things are probably some things I would have loved to have kept, that probably could have, been, things to hold on to that were good enough. But there was one little piece that really wasn't even relevant to what I was doing, caused me to think it wasn't good enough. So I stopped and started over. So I probably ended up only doing, 10, 15, 20 designs when I probably could have done 100. Right? Because I was so obsessed with it being perfect and looking perfect. And I think a lot of that, as you talk through it, and we have athletes and triathletes are specifically like this. They're very type A. It has to be perfect. It has to be good enough. They're very hard on themselves. Very few races are great. I can always do better. I need to be faster. I need to lose weight. I got to be stronger. I'm loving that I'm swimming 140s now, but I'd really love to be swimming 120s. We have that. And I think that's one, it's your personality type. But B, it's a lot of how we were made, right? If things that happened to you, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever age range it was, that you just felt like you weren't good enough. So I can't be good enough. So how do I combat that feeling? And that feeling is being perfect. And if you think about how horrible that is, I was that way, and I know adults that are still that way. You are paralyzed by the thought of being perfect, right? It's either A, do nothing, right? Because you're so afraid it's not going to be good enough, right? So therefore, reaffirming your thought process about who you are. But just the thought that in order to be good enough, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect. I have to schedule things perfect. I have to do every minute of my 60-minute ride. I can't do 15 minutes because that's not good enough, right? I can't go to the pool and skip the warm up to the main set. That's not good enough, right? And to always feeling like you're drowning in life of expectations and thoughts and feelings that aren't good enough. And I went off on that rampage because this athlete said, "Hey, I'm running late. I've only got 30 minutes in the pool, and I've got my workout today. What should I do?" Panicking. And I'm like, This woman is significantly smarter than me, much more high functioning than I am, right? A total boss in life. and you're asking me what to do with the 30 minutes you have for your swim. And I just simply said, swim as much as you can and then get out of the water.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, see, I'm brushing off my shoulders. I was like, I didn't need a college degree. And I was like, this is what we obsess about. And she just said, hey, thank you for providing relief, right? That I didn't have to do it all to be good enough, right? It didn't have to be measured. I just had to have the intent. And 30 minutes, my 30 minutes is just as good. And that's all I got today. And so I just think that, as a lot of people have made goals, resolutions, benchmarks for the year, they've added races to their calendar, and they want all these things. I think it's just really, really important to discuss and to remind ourselves that perfection is not the answer, right? Perfection shouldn't be, the deadline or the destination, right? It should always be progress. And that can be measured in millimeters, or it can be measured in miles, right? And don't be the person that has to measure everything in miles. Some days can be measured by the minutes that you did. Some days can be measured by the intent and the effort, but you can measure it all in a positive way to keep yourself going. Because the ones that don't, the ones that are obsessed with perfection, right, that they're never going to have, right? Imagine obsessing about something you will never have. Because there's no such thing as perfection. Right? There's no such thing. It'd be like me telling you, Mike, all right, man, I want you to sign up for this Ironman race in Beloit. And I don't want you to race at all until it happens.
Okay.
I know it's not going to happen, and so do you. But yet you focus on it, and then after a few years, you're like, it's never going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. I'm going to focus on it anyway. And you get so distraught and so frustrated, like, I just give up altogether. And that's what happens. So in this time, not this time of year, all times of year, remind yourself, progress, not perfection, and don't be obsessed with things that paralyze you in place and prevent you from doing something.
Right. As you know, I like to write, and in writing, there's a thing that they tell you not to do if you're doing creative writing. If you're just going to write, you're supposed to just write. And a lot of us tend to edit along the way. And I think that's kind of a good analogy for what you're talking about, because we need to move. And I'm actually just started reading a book. It's kind of weird that we're talking about this. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. And it's about entrepreneur stuff. And it's about, you got to try stuff, and then you adjust, and then you do things like that. And I think it really applies to training really well. Last night, I've been trying to keep on a streak of just doing something every day. And last night I got down to Del Boca Vista it was pretty late, 7-ish, and nobody around, unfortunately. I like to, walk in there and have people say hi to me and everything. And they still haven't got the statue up, but I got on the treadmill, and nobody's really around, but I got on the treadmill right in front of one of those stair climber things. Mm-hmm. And I'm running. I just kept looking at it like, man, that thing, I haven't done it forever. And so I ran for a while, and I'm like, I got done, and I'm like, yeah, this wasn't on the plan, but I'm just going to get on that thing for a while. I got on that thing. Dude, those things will just crush you. 10 minutes, I ran for quite a while, and then I got on that thing for 10 minutes, and I was just busting sweat like crazy. And funny, I actually saw a tweet from this NBA player. He goes, dude, I can play 35 minutes in an NBA game any day of the week, but I can't go up a flight of stairs without being out of breath.
Right?
I know.
It is.
It's just
nothing makes you feel more out of shape than taking the stairs.
I know. It's nuts, man. But the perfection, I think that Purity Chad guy I talked about, I had a quote from him. I got another one that's really good. He says, the more I trust my intuition, the healthier and more jacked I get. I don't track calories, macros, progressive overload, sleep, or steps. I just attack every day, eat clean, and leave room for the organic nature of life. Life is not some big calculation. Trust your feeling. And I just think that kind of really plays into this perfection thing, because, yeah, it's like, how perfect can we get with everything? It's like, it does. I know that there's many, many times in my life when I just haven't even started anything because I was afraid that I might not do it perfectly or something like that. Or, you get the bad feedback, or you have a bad day or whatever. But man, just getting in there and mixing it up and with a clean mind and trust in the process. I think, I think about perfection in a way that, like you can look at the world right now and say it's all jacked up, but I think when your mind is right, you can look at everything and go, it's perfect because it is screwed up. Like if it was all, everything just went your way and everything was fine and everything was smooth, it would just be boring. I mean, I think life has always given us complications and challenges. And I think that's part of it, is just figuring out how to deal with it and go forward, So there is perfection in the imperfection.
It's funny. I love what you said. What was it? Ready, fire, aim is what you said about, was that the quote, right? Ready, fire, aim.
The name of the book.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly how we should all think about all things. Right. And because in athletes specifically, right, this time of year, like I'm not ready to get started. I don't really know what races I want to do. That shouldn't prevent you from getting moving. Right. Yeah. Ready, fire, and then figure out what you want to aim for. Right. Or figure out what gun you have, what gun you want to be. Then you can aim and figure out some 100 yards away, 500 yards away, sniper rifle, 2,000 meters away, whatever it is. Do that. But you wait forever. And you miss things. And the point is that, because I think people will be fascinated to like look at the roster of athletes that we work with from all over the world and really truly see how many athletes, one, race like once a year, or B, don't have any idea when they want to race or what they want to race, but they just want to train and be healthy and have structure. Like we get so obsessed with having something to aim for, because it creates the motivation that we need. We need something to talk about. We need that external motivation. But there's nothing more beautiful than an athlete that just internally wants to get better every day. Ready? Fire. Yeah, I'll figure out what I'm going to aim for. Right. But in the meantime, I'm going to have fun. All right. Doing what I want to do. And so many people get paralyzed, like you said, in all things in life. Just do it. And both of us, both personally and professionally as a team, some of the best things we've done ever for our business have just been going with our gut. Yeah. And then totally ignoring, if we had been like, all right, Mike, let's have this meeting. What do we want to do? How do we want to grow? What can we do for our athletes? This is what we feel is right. And then we're like, oh, but you know what? Let's take 45 minutes to an hour and look at all the ways that contradict and what's the market doing and what are these people telling us to do? And then it makes you second guess, right? And how many times and I think we've done that to some extent, right? We're like, hey, this feels right. And then we kind of get scared, right? We get kind of skittish with it. And then the longer you stay skittish, the higher the percentages of you not doing what you said you wanted to do before.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that all the time with life because it makes us, we fear failure. And if we don't think something's perfectly calculated or perfectly projected, or it might rain today, so I'm probably going to run inside, or my power meter's not working, so I'm not going to go run, or, big props to the guy in our Crushing Iron close Facebook group today who said, new time, kind of a new summer, and I went to the pool today, forgot my watch, and almost didn't swim. Because I was watching them, but got his ass in the pool, right? Like, props to you. Good for you. You had no way to measure it, but you know what? You did it. Your body feels it. Your heart feels it. Your mind feels it. You know that you did it. But we don't. Like, we get it's because, and listen, let's be honest, like, you can't even trust anything you read anymore. That's why it's so important to go with your gut, because everything you read, everything you see has an agenda. Right? You can't truly trust, in my opinion, anything anymore, because it's all based on making money, right? Or removing money from someone else, right? Or it's no longer to make you feel good. It's in order to make someone else look bad. That's it. That's all people's job is these days. When you read and you look at any type of media, it's hard to trust anything, right? And that's like, as many times as you and I have gone back and forth on having a sponsor, or having an ad, or whatever it is, because it would be additional revenue for us. Easy money, right? Mm-hmm. But then we kind of go back to, but our guts always says no, and we also promised we never would. But it also goes back to, like, it taints, in my opinion, it semi-taints what your message is, because we don't have an agenda, right? Besides keeping you happy and healthy in your sports journey, we don't have an agenda, right? We're not trying to sell you anything, right? Yeah. It's just experience and yeah, and I just think that we spend so much time in our lives consuming things that add resistance and fuel to the things that we're afraid of doing, right?
Yeah.
We read about why we shouldn't. We read about why we should be scared. We read about why we should put it off. We read about the market. We read about, real estate. We read about all these things that are doom and gloom. And what all you're doing is, seriously, you open any news feed and anything, social media or news platform, and all it's really telling you is everything is terrible. You shouldn't do all of this. Nothing tells you should do anything, right? But in how many times and how often that prevents people, just one, because again, I think we're all, as big egos as I think everyone has on this planet, we're all so insanely insecure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need very few things to boost up our ego because we have it naturally, right? But if you have insecurity about anything, running, swimming, riding, your races you're going to do, the distance it is, or going to a friend's house or whatever it might be, all you need is that one little ounce, right, of fear or uncertainty to basically throw gasoline on, and now it's like a fucking bonfire, and you can't turn it off. So you just, I'll just walk away and be done. I don't need to do that. I can't. I don't need to do that. Why? Because you read some article that it was terrible. It's like it's the equivalent of you realizing that you live in a neighborhood where everybody around you is awesome. Everybody's friendly. Everybody's cool. Everybody wants to help each other. Nobody's throwing late parties at 10 o'clock at night because that's way past people's bedtime. And then it comes across your nude feeds and it's like, so-and-so city is ranked one of the 48th least happiest places in America. And you're like, well, fuck, that's where I live.
You're done. Tough.
You're done. Right? Seriously. But that's how powerful stuff like that is when you invite resistance into your life, right? You read through a Strava feed of all these people that have 20 hours a week to train. You follow pros. You follow these age group athletes who would give up their dog and their firstborn, right, to race the world championships, and you compare yourself to them. Stop inviting resistance into your life of the things that you really want to do, and don't question it. Like you said, ready, fire. And then eventually you might aim at something. If not, you got some shots off, right? Instead of just sitting there with the loaded gun on your front porch, like the old man, and you're done. You're getting nothing out of it, right? You've got to be proactive for yourself and stop being so reactive to everybody else.
There's I'm not a big guy like on, as you know, numbers and things like that a lot of times, because there's an interesting thing that goes on with me, and I don't know if anybody else deals with this, but like if I'm feeling good and I'm in a good groove, and I can get done with a workout and be like, a lot of times I don't really pay attention to average pace or whatever the case may be. And I get done and I feel good and everything. And the other day I was down there and I got done with a swim and I'm like, yeah, that felt good. I'm feeling like I'm in a groove, right? And I never weigh myself. And I'm like, I feel like I'm pretty light. And I went over and I was like, whoa, that is not what I needed to see right now.
What are you doing, dude?
I don't know.
You got to wake up in the morning, cup of coffee, poop, then weigh. Don't ever do it any other time of day.
100%. So, but I did it and an interesting thing happened. I was feeling good about everything and I was like, yeah, I look pretty good and everything. And now the last few days I've been looking at myself going, man, your shit is falling apart. Like I have a different perspective on it.
Right?
And it's just a weird thing because like, I think you can do that. Like for me, I try not to look at my results too much of any workout because if I feel good about it, 9 times out of 10, it's not as good as I thought. And then all of a sudden I'm going, shit, I thought I was getting faster. I thought I was getting stronger, this and that. And, I just think that the habit can really, like you're saying about the news feed, you look at stuff and it reminds you that, it kind of sucks you back into a weird place sometimes. So I try, I'm really trying to avoid reading stuff because, going with life and I love that thing about that quote is that he said, life is not some big calculation, trust and feeling. And when I'm feeling good, like last night, I've talked about my backhand wall ball when I was playing shortstop a million times, but like that to me is when I'm in my best groove, when I'm just looking forward to it. And I know intrinsically in my gut that I'm getting better. It doesn't have like a stat involved with it. I don't like, feel like that one was right on balance and let me write that down. I mean, I try to think about stuff like that and move the right direction. And that's all I've been doing my running right now is just getting on that treadmill. Like last night I felt really good. And what was my instinct was just to keep like jacking it up. So maybe I would start suffering. But I resisted and I got off that thing and I had a nice run. I knew that my cadence was good. I knew my balance was good. I felt like I'm getting better. And I just left it at that, other than getting on that stupid Stairmaster. But I just wanted to try it. And I think a lot of times we're moving the right direction and you can see something that is like, it makes you feel like you're not doing as good as you thought you were. But it's better for me to just create mental momentum a lot of times. And that's why I like to just leave it as it was and move on. And, everything about me is like, leaving today, especially with training, in a way that makes me look forward to training tomorrow. So that's more important to me than, really like always like critically judging my progress all the time. As long as I know I feel like I'm moving the right direction, man. You just get into life and you just go and you can tell, it's like, I feel like we always need like crazy feedback or something, but do you trust your instincts, trust your gut, like you were saying?
I think we have this this inner obsession with reassuring ourselves that we aren't in fact good enough, or that we can't do certain things. Right? Mm-hmm. We say things that are self-deprecating. We do things that are self-sabotaging because it's almost kind of more comfortable to be where we've always been and what we always thought, because then there's no really, I'm going to keep falling short of expectations because that's what I've always done, and like we get trapped in that and then we don't do more things, right? Like and then we see ourselves differently. Like when we do things that are fun and enjoyable, we willingly, right, fall into traps we don't have to fall into. Hop it on the scale, and then it's like hop it on the fucking Stairmaster. Nothing worse than like making yourself feel overweight and out of shape. Let me go weigh and then step on the Stairmaster.
Yeah.
Like, worst thing you can ever do to yourself. But there you did it. And now, like you said, you're like, man, like that's not good enough. You get done with a great workout and you're like, man, that was awesome. Today felt unreal. I felt like I was flying. Then you look at me like, that's not what I felt today. So you're gonna let a machine, right, a device, tell you how you felt and how you did. Stop comparing it. Stop doing it. I never look back after a workout. I might track trends after 8 to 12 weeks, but I never look at one plot on the curve. I look at the whole curve, and whether it's a slight slant up or maybe even just an even line or a huge incline on the way up, it's still positive momentum. And you can't be so hard. It's just like, I'm telling you, like having fun is so underrated. If you really want to fall in love and be great at a sport, you can't despise it. And I know I say this all the time, but that's like one of the things that I'm trying so incredibly hard to imprint upon Hayden is he's just fallen in love with hockey. He got home yesterday and I know I used to know jack crap about hockey. And now I've like done my research, and now we got a freaking NHL live on our app at our TV, and it's all hockey all the time. Like he walked downstairs this morning, and at like 6:15, I just got done running with waffles, which is a story for another second. But he was like, "Dad, if you want to know what to watch this morning, we can watch San Jose Sharks versus Colorado Avalanche." And I was like, what? I was like, who are you? But he's become this huge like hockey freak and wants to know all these like trivia questions. He got home yesterday at 5:25, and it's of course almost black outside. And he sprints inside, and I'm like, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, what do you mean what do you want for dinner? He's like, I haven't played hockey yet. We got this like synthetic ice backyard. And I was like, dude, it's dark out and it's 30 degrees. He was like, can I have 15 minutes? And I was like, sure, whatever, man. And it's not because he wants to go out there and run drills, right? Or work on his, slot. He just wants to go out there and have fun, but he's doing it. He's having fun and using a sport to do it. And that's what we should all be doing too. And it just, I try to keep reminding him that. And I was going back to I looked at the weather this morning to go out for a run. and it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds, 18 degrees, spitting like sleet and snow. My first thought was like, oh my God, like, do I want to do this alone? Nope. Waffles, you're coming with. Because I'm sure I'm sure as hell not walking you in this. And I love you, but I'm not walking you in this for 30, 40 minutes. So you know what? We're gonna go through this together. And I'm out there, and actually it wasn't nearly as bad. I'm out there running. I'm getting, I think we ran for 30 minutes, got like 3-point-something miles in. I remember looking down and I was like, man, and I actually said, because if you're a dog, you know how this is. I said, Waffles, you're really doing good today. He was keeping up. It was like, we're in this like real crap, but I was just having fun with what I was doing, and I was still running, right? And I didn't get back. I'm like, all right, well, last time, one of our runs this, so this might, be a little bit in the gray zone. You just got it done. And you move on with your life, and you realize you already did something good for today. What I didn't say was, you know what? Let's see, around 3 o'clock, 3:30, it looks like it's going to be sunny. The wind's going to be down. Let me just wait, right? I got to aim. I got to aim for the perfect time of day. Well, then I know with me, what happens is, I get Hayden for school. I drop them off. I go to work. Things happen. Things come up. I get emails to answer, and I do all these things again that I love. But then all of a sudden I get to 3:30, 3 o'clock, and I'm like, God, I'm tired. I really don't want to run right now. Hayden gets home in 20 minutes, and I was going to want to do something just not do it. So I aimed for something in the future I assumed was going to be a still target, right? I assumed it was still going to be there. It's not. Nothing in life is a still target. It's all moving, right? It's like trying to time the stock market. You can't do it. It's impossible, right? One day it's up, one day it's down, 3 days later it crashes, and you're like, I'm going to wait 2 more days. Next thing you know, you wake up the next morning and it's gone up 6 points. You're like, fuck, I missed my time. Like, you can't time it.
Yeah.
Can't. But the best investors will tell you whether the market's up or the market's down, you put money in. That's it. You just put money in. No matter what it is, you put money in. And whether it's, $5 or $500, 5,000, or however, your financial situation is, like, that's what you do. You can't time it, but that is the place our generation is in. They want to time and perfect everything. I want to predict everything. I want to know everything right now. And there's very, very little discovery that happens anymore, right? Because one, you want to predict it before you do it, right? Or you're too damn paralyzed in this vision of perfection or total fear that you might fail, that you discover nothing, right? You not only don't discover, it's that you would be better at this new job, or you would do this, or you would do that. You discover, and you don't discover anything along the way. You just don't. And you just miss so much of life, and you miss so many opportunities in sports, right? Because you're scared. That course is too hilly. That water's too choppy. That run is too hot. I'm like, I don't hear obstacles. I hear fucking excuses, right? And all I do is hearing you yelling about your fear versus how hard something really is. Because there's really nothing we can't do. If we really want to do it, right, we'll do it. Or we'll make excuses why we can't, or why we shouldn't, or why it's too scary. And then that justifies our thinking, and then we're comfortable with that. But that's the thing. We shouldn't be comfortable with that, right? We should be uncomfortable with feeling comfortable about, being fine and being scared and not trying to discover more about ourselves and more about life.
Yeah. Well, what you said about you don't look at the workout in the particular day and you look at trends and stuff like that. It's funny. I was just thinking that's exactly how you should look at investing. And you just brought up the example, it's just like, just go in, dollar cost average, whatever it is, and just keep going and look at it later. And I always think about training as sort of, mastering where you're at right now, whether it's, that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm trying to get my run back, and I'm just trying to master it under my control. It's tempting always to go some place that you've been, maybe 2 years ago or something like that. You're like, I'm in the mode, I can go. It's good, I think, to push a little bit and test some waters. And like you're saying, just fire before you aim, and just kind of, it's almost like dollar cost average in workouts. It's just like put a little bit in, and then just look back in a long time and see what happened over the time. It's you can kind of keep winging it and hoping. But it is such a society of like wanting things now. You know, you look at, you know, people just like every day looking at the market. Oh shit, I better, you know, it's a long-term thing. And I think training is exactly the same. And anything really that you want to get better at, you just got to keep doing it. And you don't even notice. I think that's when you're in your best place, is when you don't even really notice you're getting better. Every once in a while it'll pop up and you'll be like, hey, wait, what just happened today? That's a really good sign, right? It's sort of that, I see so many people that, you know, have whatever, you know, an easy 30-minute zone 2 run or something, and their comment is like, this is the worst run. I don't know what's happening. I'm getting worse. And what, you know, it's just, who knows what happened before that or days leading up or whatever. It's just like, but the tendency to put so many eggs in that basket of how you feel in the moment is very tempting, but you just got to kind of let it go. It's like putting your money in the market and don't look, you know, just let things go, you know, because there is a force in nature that's at work. And I think there's a good outcome usually if you just trust that and keep moving the right direction, especially if your gut. I mean, we just had a call before this in a business sense, and it looks really good, but we're kind of just thinking about, let's just try it, you know, rather than committing everything to what we want to do. We just kind of get in there and see how it goes. And it's sort of like that is, it's ready and we just fire and then adjust. And same with training. I mean, it's just like, do the best you can with today and master where you're at before you try and get too crazy. You know, I think it's so, you know, like, I think what the pool is so interesting is that, I think you had mentioned, I want to get from 140, 100 to 120, and the discipline and repetition it takes to get that far, you know, like even get to 130 in the pool sometimes it's just like you know, it's not something you can just do overnight. I mean, sometimes a stroke correction or whatever with somebody that's been a good swimmer or whatever can fix some things like that. But I think for the most part, you know, I keep telling people, it's just, you know, you got to just put in the reps and you got to get stronger, and then you'll be able to hold that form better and things just come together. And I think that's just a patience game.
You know, I think one of the biggest things, I mean, any of us can do, and I know I harp on media all the time and its influence is not just there, but, you know, with the people that you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. You know, you and I are, I think, very lucky to have each other in the sense that we think the same. We you know, go with our gut. One of us is an analytics driven obsessor that's, you know, always going to contradict, because it, you know, when it does it, we might fail at sometimes, and we have, but it's a lot more fun to try and fail than to never try at all. Yeah. You know, yeah. And a lot of times what we do is we get so stuck in everyone else's fear, and we totally let it cloud our own confidence. Mm-hmm. Because again, everything else in life right now is so vocal, and like everything has a megaphone to project their own fear that, well, yeah, maybe they're right. Yeah, they're right for themselves because they're terrified, right? Let them live that life. Doesn't mean you have to. I don't think you should. There's always responsible ways to do it, and bet on yourself. Just because no one else can do it, right, doesn't mean you're cocky, right, or naive, right, or stupid to give something a try. It just means maybe someone hasn't done it the right way yet, or they're not you, right? And again, doesn't mean that you're special. It just means maybe your work ethic's harder. I saw a quote a few weeks ago that said, you know, some of us are living our dreams because we're living our fears. And that is the case with so many things that people overcome in life, right? That the only reason they're living their dream is because they overcame the fear not to pursue it, right? Mm-hmm. Our what we're doing now, you know, like, took a big freaking leap, right? To do this. I had a concrete job offer, you know, and, you know, you were doing your own thing, and we were kind of like, well, you know, I was a new father, and I was like, man, this is really kind of nerve wracking. Maybe just rip the fucking Band-Aid off and let's go. Yeah. And here we are. And they might not all end up like that. And of course, this isn't everyone's dream, but it's mine. and we neither of us would be here if we didn't just take the leap, right? And fear be damned, and see where you end up. And we do, and that's definitely one thing we never did and still rarely ever do is we don't really ever aim. And that's I was joking with somebody before the podcast, like, what are you talking about today? I was like, no clue. We had no clue about our topic today, period. We honestly, before I told Mike to just play the music, we were trying to think of the topic because we never have one. We just ready, fire. Mm-hmm. And then at some point it pops up. I'm like, you know what? Let's aim at that. Let's aim at this topic. And we just sat there for what? Probably a good 30 more minutes. Be like, well, let me go see. Maybe we should do this, maybe do that. Instead of just letting it flow, just ready, fire with everything and see where you land. Because again, like what we do in endurance sports and so many things in life are so absolutely trivial. We just put so much stock behind it that it's going to be the end all of everything that we do.
Yeah.
And it's going to label us a failure, right? But at least you could do something exciting, right? Don't be a person that does nothing. I'm terrified of change. I don't want to look for a new job because of this, or what if I have to do this, or what do I have to do this? I'm like, that if you want to be like that, that's your choice. But you're missing a whole different world of opportunities out there because we've become so risk averse that we are becoming less and less adventurous. We are going by our gut. Well, there's so many analytics and artificial intelligence to help drive. I'm like, you think that's fucking fun?
Yeah.
No, I want to discover things, right? I want to feel my way through. I want to see what happens. I want to adjust on the fly. I want to do what I want to do that makes me feel good. Not what everyone else is telling me is wrong or right. Do what makes you feel good, no matter what it is. And don't be afraid to change on the fly. Don't be afraid to adjust. I signed up for 2 races, right? I signed up for 2 races this year, and now I realize I probably overcommitted, and now it's February or March, and I really don't want to do them, but I'm just going to stick it through. You're going to take a whole year of your life to train for something you don't want to do? That's a terrible idea. I'm going to tell you right now, terrible idea. Pack it up, right? You spend $700, wash it. You're gonna make out by not, spending money on a hotel rooms or whatever. Do what you love and do what you want to do, right? Find something that you're scared of. Find something that excites you. Find something that honestly you're not sure you can do, and then go for it. Ready, fire. I like that. Ready, fire.
You like that? Yeah,
I do like that. Ready, fire.
I mean, I love what you're talking about, like our podcast and how we didn't have a topic or whatever. And, over time, honestly, every, business person or somebody, I have a lot of friends in the entrepreneurial space, and everybody's like, you guys got to have ads. You got to have ads. There's money on the table. And it's just, I think neither of us have felt in our gut that we've wanted to do that. And I mean, at our core, it was just sort of about building a community and creating a lifestyle for us. And yeah, we have definitely left money on the table, but we also felt like we would figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, we put in a lot of time on these podcasts, and I guess in some ways, I felt like we would figure out like a way to sort of get that back. And I think we have, or, people might have other ideas for us to, not cave into the whole ad. Because this is the thing, man. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and like some of them start turning into that ad cast, and I'm like, what? But to me, what happens is it feels like it's just turning back into radio. It's like every once in a while I hit a podcast and all they do, it's a radio station, maybe something for the Badgers or something. And they basically just cut out their whole show and repurpose it as a podcast. And it's like, just like a radio thing when you got like 6 ads in between breaks and all that. And it just annoys me. So I don't know if anybody has, ideas. I mean, we just sell gear, I mean, that's kind of what we decided. You guys get something for helping out the podcast. And if anybody's got any other brilliant ideas that don't muck up what we're doing, because we just, like you said, man, I think we like to, kind of go with our gut and just do the podcast. And all of a sudden you start putting ads in there. It kind of starts feeling more like it's not our podcast anymore. It's not what we do. It's not us just having a conversation. All of a sudden it's kind of got a third party in there, sort of maybe not overtly dictating things, but it just kind of muddies our water. And I think that all that stuff translates into just do what you like to do and be passionate about it. Like you said, just go have fun with, and use fun or use training to be fun. You know, that's just, I can't say enough about that, because if it's drudgery, then it becomes, then the next thing is you're just looking at your race and your time and hoping that becomes your life. And then, a lot of times that doesn't work out. And suddenly you're like, man, I just spent a whole year doing this and I failed. It's like, have fun in the process right now, doing what you're doing. Like right now, I'm just rambling on, and I don't think it matters, because that's what we do sometimes.
Yeah,
and that's nice to have that option.
Yes, it seriously is. It's there's so much freedom in being flexible in the fuck around, which may or may not be a shirt at some point, but it is. It's be flexible, have fun. I mean, seriously, you can wrap it up, but I mean, there's so much to life, right? And if you find yourself being one of those people that obsesses about, you'd rather not do something if it's not going to be perfect, then think how little you're going to accomplish in life. Think how little you're going to accomplish in life, and how many amazing things you could do, how many amazing good things, right, you could do and by just getting out there and not caring what it looks like, what it feels like, and to kind of wrap us back to like the very beginning of the podcast when I was talking about the design things I used to do, the example that I sent in with my application to Auburn pre-architecture program had a smudge on it. Ooh. And I was so terrified to send it in because it wasn't perfect. But outside of that smear, it was the best one I had done. I was like, I'm going to send this in and I'm going to see what happens. And I got in. I never went, obviously. But, if I didn't, we wouldn't have this podcast. But it's just, don't be so terrified. Just go do things and have fun with it. And again, whether it's 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 4 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours, it's good enough if you want it to be. If you don't want it to be, it won't matter how great, it won't matter how fast, it won't matter how long. It'll never be good enough. And that's no way to live. And we don't want you to live that way either. So as always, we love you. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. Again, like Mike said, it's a great way to support the podcast. We don't do ads and sponsors. So go there and buy some gear and support us. Another way to not just support us, but see us, interact with us, have some good actual face-to-face conversation and exchanges, and get some great training in is to attend some of our training camps. We've got one in Texas in March. We've got one in Nashville in June. And we've got one in Madison in August. There's a few spots open for all those. So hop on those. Again, not just for great training, great environments, and great coaching, but great people. And again, going back to taking risk, and most all people that come to our camps are absolutely terrified to come the first time. And within about, 20 minutes, realize they made the best decision they could possibly make, because you can't have too many friends and you can't have good enough great support. So check those out. And then if you're looking for a great team and great coaching, check on our coaching tab and get support that you need for the year to be successful, both on and off the race course. As always, if you need anything from Mike, he's available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. And if you need anything from me specifically, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Holler.
Talk to you soon.